YouTube, Aaron Robbins here for Fully Beta, and we are going to talk today about how to apply multiple different shaders or materials on one MagicaVoxel model. So we have the Grand Marshal's Battle Hammer here from World of Warcraft. You can take a look at me modeling that up here really quickly. And normally if we just exported this out of MagicaVoxel into File, Export, and selected OBJ there, we would get a .obj file, we get a .mtl material file, and we would get a .png, which would be like the texture map or the image map or whatever. And that's great, but what if we wanted multiple materials on this? What if we wanted like a material for the stone that had a bump map on it, and a more metally, reflecty type material for the gold part here, and all that stuff? Well, we need to do that in a different program, and Blender is as good as any. So let's go ahead and export this model just as an object, and we'll take it into Blender, and I'll show you how to apply multiple materials to this the easy way. At least I think it's the easy way. So we'll go ahead and select Export Object, and we'll just export the, and yes, we'll place it because this isn't the first time I've recorded this. And then we're going to go into Blender. Okay, so we're in Blender here, and we're going to go ahead and we have a new scene. You can tell I have a new scene because I have the new scene cube. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click on that cube. Go ahead and hit the X key to delete that. Then I'm going to go up to File and choose Import, and then we're going to go down here and select wavefront.obj file. Then we're going to go to that folder, and then probably we'll head into this folder. Then maybe we'll go ahead and jump into that folder. Here's what we're looking for: the Grand Marshal's Battlehammer.obj. We'll select that. We'll hit Import. You're like, oh, I don't see a texture on that. This whole tutorial is going awry. I'm just going to bring the lamp up here and turn its intensity up to 400 billion because that is the right setting for it. And then we'll go ahead over here and change it to material mode so you can see that it is actually textured. Everything came out of MagicaVoxel, just okie dokie. Everything's great. So now let's talk about how we can actually retexture this. Okay, so the default texture on there right now, we can go ahead and switch over to the Materials tab. We'll right-click on the hammer, switch over to Materials tab right over here. Came out as the palette, and the palette just has that PNG image mapped to it, and palette's just the default name that MagicaVoxel gives it. So to retexture it actually is pretty easy. Go ahead and move this down right over here, and that's good. And we're going to create a new window, so I'm going to drag on this little guy over here, bring this over here, and then we're going to change off the 3D view on this view, and we're going to change it to UV Image Editor. So this little guy controls this button. You can see there is no UV selected right now because we're in object mode on our hammer. So just make sure the hammer is selected or your object is selected. We're going to change to edit mode. Then two really important things here, super duper important. You can see the 256 by 1 pixel high PNG loaded here as our texture map, as did all the sort of UVs, which I'm going to show you are all stacked on top of each other. So two things you want to do. First, switch to face selection. This is very important, or you'll end up trying to select vertexes and you won't be able to grab the faces. So make sure you switch to faces. And then Blender has this awesome feature here to keep UV and edit mesh selection in sync, which means when I select meshes, it'll try to select the UVs, and when I select UVs, it'll select the corresponding polygons over there type of deal. So we want that turned on for sure. I didn't mean to say it like that. Then we're going to go ahead and hit the 1 or the period on the numlock to zoom in, or you can go up here and say view center, and you can see all of our UVs are selected right now. This is actually a bunch of probably vertices all stacked on top of each other. That's how MagicaVoxel exports them. So any sort of mesh or any face that was on this color, it just takes all those vertexes, stacks them on top of each other, puts them in the middle of the pixel. Okay, so what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and hit A to unselect, then we're going to hit B, and we'll drag over just these gray ones, and now they're highlighted over here because we have this little guy selected down here. They're in sync with each other. Then all we need to do is, if you're not over on the Material tab over here, go ahead and switch over to the Material tab. We'll hit the plus sign there to add a new one. Then we're going to add a new material, and we'll call this, that gray is supposed to be like silver, so we'll call this Silver Matte. Pretend that's a great silver color, and all you would do is hit assign, and you're done. Move to the next one. We'll go ahead and hit B and choose the gold ones there. Deselect everything first with A. Select the gold one. Now the gold stuff is all selected over here. Go ahead and hit plus again, and then we're going to create a new one. We'll call this one Gold Matte. And we'll give it kind of a gold-ish color, I suppose. And again, we just hit assign, and now it's updated over there on the texture. Go ahead and select just one more, just the blue one here. The B key, A to unselect all, Same process, just new, and then we're going to change this to not blue. We will change it to red so we can see this point. We'll hit assign, and then we're done. So let's go ahead and go back over to this window here. And if we go back to material mode, or sorry, that's not what I'm looking, object mode, you can see it did update this to red. This now has a material in it. Now if I export this as an FBX or whatever, I will have all of those materials in Unity or whatever project you're heading to where you wanted to retexture. So that's a really quick way to use UV sync selection in Blender, blending in Blender, to retexture a model. I hope that was helpful. If it was, go ahead and resubscribe if you were subscribed to my old channel. Lots more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching.